Good morning, 7th grade. Happy Thursday. Remember to take your blazers for mass. Just kidding, we aren't going to have mass today and you don't have your blazers. But we are going to go over synonyms and antonyms in our vocabulary books. So go ahead and open to page 132 and we're going to go through them. So if, as we're going along, you find that you have a question, you disagree with something, feel free to send me a message on Jupiter, send me a text or a comment on the video, and I'll make sure that we can talk a little bit about why I think it might be this word and how we can start to really bring together all of our understandings of this vocabulary as we learn. So number 1, cautiously inspected the dilapidated old building. You should be listening carefully. I'm not just going to say the word, I'm going to put it in the context so that we can see how it works in that part of speech and how we can see how it works with the phrasing around it. Number 2, took up acting to overcome their timidity. May botch the assignment if not careful. Number 4, was reluctant to pamper the spoiled child any further. Number 5, cleaned up the clutter of tools in Dad's workroom. Number 6, a meeting that turned into a farce. Number 7, saw that the wolf had returned to its lair. Number 8, will attempt to veto the passing of the law. Number 9, trying to shirk her responsibilities. Number 10, would hang on like a parasite. Now, those ones felt pretty easy for me, but I'm pretty familiar with most of these words. So if there was one that you thought was a little more challenging, make sure that you circle it, go back and review the definition of that word. And now we're going to take a look at antonyms on page 133. I'm going to dive a little bit more deeply into these because I think that they give us a better insight into the meaning and use of each word. Number 1, we see in the question the decision to confirm the anti-pollution bill. Now I notice that it uses language like bill, which tells me it probably has something to do with laws. I know right off the bat we've practiced veto a couple of times. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And veto would be the opposite of confirm. If you're confirming it, you're saying yes, it's good to go. If you're vetoing it, you're saying nope, this needs to go back for more work. So veto is going to be the opposite there. Number 2, saw a tearjerker of a play. Now, if it was a tearjerker, it made me cry. It was probably really sad. I know that the opposite of sad is happy or funny. I'm starting to build up those connections. Happy, funny, okay, farce. Farce has to do with comedy, has to do with being funny and joyful, and that would definitely be the opposite of a tearjerker. Number 2 is farce. Number 3, a younger sibling who was a real helper. This one got me stuck at first because, again, sometimes this antonym language is really tough for me. My first thought is to think about synonyms. I was like, there's no synonym for helper in here. Then I said, nope, I'm looking for the opposite. So I started looking through what would be the opposite of a helper. Someone who's making it harder, someone who's making it more difficult, like a parasite. Someone who's taking and not giving anything back, engaging in that negative relationship. That would be a parasite. So number 3, parasite. Number 4, resting on the ground out in the open. Now, I want to hear what you guys have for this answer. I don't have an answer key in my book. I just answer the questions as we go. And I didn't know what the answer to number 4 was. Now, some of you might be with me in that you guessed lair. I thought lair because some of the synonyms for that are hideaway, any hideout. Those are some of our synonyms there. What I don't like about it is that we see out in the open here is acting as an adjective or an adverb. It's a describing phrase, but lair is a noun. It's not used as a describing word, it's used as a place word. So I don't quite know what should fit there. My first guess is that it's lair because the context fits, but I'm frustrated that the part of speech doesn't fit. So definitely, if you have a different answer for that one, definitely send me a Jupyter message, make a comment on the video, send me a message on Google Classroom, whatever. Let me know what you had for antonyms number 4. I'd love to just talk about it and maybe learn a little bit more from you guys, since I couldn't quite figure out what this one would be. Number 5, not one to take on extra chores. Now, the opposite of taking on an extra responsibility would be to shy away from it or push it away. And I know that a synonym for avoiding something or sidestepping something would be shirk, S-H-I-R-K, shirk, for number 5. Now, the rest of your assignment today is going to be completing the sentence. I'm going to give you that tip that I give you every single time, that for completing the sentence, what you want to do is you want to check off in your definitions every word that you've used, because each word is only used once, which means the first 5 might be really tough, but when you get to the last 5, there's only 5 words left, and so it's much easier. We're going to go through 3 together, and then you're going to be able to cross those words off. If you find that you get to number 4 and you're totally stuck on it, don't let that frustrate you. Move on to number 5, move on to number 6. Find the ones that you do know so you can start crossing those words off and be left with fewer to worry about. Number 1, a sitting president can blank a measure passed by a majority of Congress, but lawmakers can overrule his decision. Now, I've got some ideas already. I see words like lawmakers, I see a word like president, I see a measure, all of which have to do with passing laws and making changes. And I know that if they are passing the law, a sitting president can blank it, so they're probably going to be going against what Congress has decided. We see some of those contrasting words here with but and overrule. So a nice easy guess, some of you definitely already have it written down, I'm sure, is going to be veto for number 1. A sitting president can veto a measure passed by a majority of Congress, but lawmakers can overrule his decision. Number 6, since the number 6, what? No. Number 2. Since the defendant was never given a chance to prove his innocence, his so-called trial was nothing more than a blank. Now I see the word trial in quotes here. I'm guessing it's not because it's a piece of dialogue. I'm guessing it's because it's when you're saying something or you've heard something said that you know isn't 100% true. Like sometimes we'll take a quiz because it says quiz at the top, but it's not really something that's going to be graded like a quiz. In the same way, I see trial here, but this is a pretty serious thing. So if it's in quotes, then it must be something not so good that we're looking for to fill in this blank. And I see that the defendant was never given a chance to prove his innocence, which means that the trial definitely was not something that was legitimate or serious. So I'm looking for something that is not legitimate or not serious. Maybe something that's filled with ridiculous or absurd happenings. A ridiculous sham, sham being something that's kind of fake or not what it says it is. Just like trial here in quotes. So, since the defendant was never given a chance to prove his innocence, his so-called trial was nothing more than a farce. Farce is our answer for number 2. Number 3, I know what it is that I have to do, and you may be certain that I will not blank my duty. So I know what I have to do. I will not blank my duty. Probably I won't let you down. I won't avoid. I won't miss out on. I won't shirk. I won't shirk my duty. Now, we've practiced that one a couple of times in our synonyms and antonyms, so hopefully you're starting to really get that one. It's got a little bit of a tricky pronunciation, tricky spelling, but I think that we understand what that meaning is pretty well. So there's the first three, so you can go into your definitions and cross out veto, farce, and shirk. Make sure that you're reviewing the rest carefully. And a way that you can check your answers before you even watch tomorrow's video with me giving the answers. Find a synonym for that word. For example, a synonym for shirk is dodge. I know what it is that I have to do, and you may be certain that I will not dodge my duty. That makes sense. The part of speech works there, so I know that I'm probably on the right track with using a verb, with using shirk. You need to be able to replace the word you've used with a synonym for that word in order to be sure that it makes sense there. So there are your tips for completing the sentence. Go ahead and get to work on that. Remember, each word is only used once, and I will see you back here tomorrow for the answers.